Welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jackie. I'm the president of the Tri-Valley Democratic Club. Thank you for joining us on this. It's been a very stressful month, at least for me. Before we get started, normally I would either say the Pledge of Allegiance or read the preamble, but we have a lot of speakers tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and bypass that for this evening. I do want to just make a note that we are in earthquake country. I don't know if you all heard the news about the great big quake that happened in Japan, but this is a big wake-up call. We live here in California. For those who were not here in 1989, when a big quake happens, everything can be disrupted. So do not wait until the big earthquake hits. Get yourself prepared. Water, batteries, all those good things, because it's not a matter of if it's going to hit, it's a matter of when. So thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and just share. As you know, over the weekend of the 11th, serious accusations were raised, and several women came forward and accused Eric Swalwell of a sexual assault. During the weekend, I had many calls and inquiries from our members asking what we were going to do, because many people were pulling their endorsements. And we did decide to go ahead and poll our members. We sent a vote to all of our membership. And between the 11th and 12th, we had 92.9% of our members asked to poll our endorsement. And another 83.8% of those same members also asked us to re-endorse in the race for governor. 83.8 said, let's do it now. Another 3%, let's endorse after. And then 8% of our members said, no, let's not re-endorse. Because our members voted on this, we are going to re-endorse tonight. I'm going to let Richard walk through the process for the endorsement. But on the ballot tonight, we will have both the Congressional District 14, the regular seat, that the primary is being held June 2nd. We will be endorsing in that race tonight, as well as governor. And then Board of Education will also be hearing from our candidate, Cheryl Cook-Kallio for Board of Ed. And there's also a special election that has been called. Because Eric did step down, there will be a special endorsing caucus. The DSCC delegates, those are the Central Committee delegates who live in Eric Swalwell's district, Congressional District 14. And this is pre-Prop 50. So those of you in Dublin that may be delegates that got redistrict, it's the pre-Prop 50 congressional districts. So those delegates are going to be voting tomorrow and endorsing. And there's a whole new set of people that are joining this race. We were going to endorse in that race tonight. However, it's been brought to our attention that candidates have up until 12 noon tomorrow to get their filing in. So for that reason, we're going to hold off on the special election endorsement, but we will continue on with our endorsement for the June 2nd election. I hope that is as clear as mud. And here to fill us in on how our vote is going to happen, I want to go ahead and spotlight Richard Lee. Richard, where are you? Let's see. Let me go ahead and see if I can find you.
I'm the R, sorry. I'm driving right now, so I am camera off. But I'm here.
Okay. Then I'll let you, do you want to go ahead and speak to that, or do you want me to walk through the ballots tonight?
Um, you can go ahead, Jackie, and I can fill in the gaps wherever.
Okay. Um,
Jackie, Richard is coming in very broken up, and I imagine other people are having difficulty hearing him. So keep that in mind, please.
okay. I'm going to go ahead and walk through. So the format for tonight's forum will be candidates will have a total of 20 minutes each to speak to our members. And that 20 minutes will be broken up into 5 minutes for an opening statement, followed by 14 minutes for Q&A, and then a 1 minute closer. So a total of 20 minutes. We will be timing the opener and the closing and just keeping an eye and letting you know when we have our last question. We will go ahead and give priority to our club members. If no club members have a question, we will open it up to the public to ask a question. And first up, do we have Cheryl Cook-Kallio? Let me find Cheryl. Sorry, I thought Richard would be here.
Sorry, I
That's
am here.
okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just having
Cheryl,
trouble with my Fathom and my window at the same time. Okay. Is Cheryl on?
Cheryl, if you're here,
And let's see. I do not see Cheryl on. Cheryl is the only Democratic candidate running in this race. The other candidate who was pulled paperwork is clearly a Republican. So we will go ahead and come back to Cheryl upon conclusion of our CD14. So with that, it looks like next up on the agenda would be Melissa Hernandez. Melissa, are you there? Let me spotlight you before you start talking.
Hi, Jackie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay.
And let me spotlight you and get a clock up real quick. Sorry. So Melissa, I will start the timer and you will have 5 minutes and it's 7:08 now.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for being here this evening. I know that everyone has some busy schedules and the rain kind of puts a little wrench in our schedule. So thank you again. My parents were migrant farm workers. Growing up in a two-bedroom apartment with my six brothers and sisters, my parents worked hard to build a better life for us. Their love and support and the values they taught us, including that you can do better by working hard, they really do ground my work in common sense. No one expected someone like me to be elected to public office. As the first Latina mayor of Dublin and the first Latina BART board director, I know what it takes and what it's like to be the only person in the room who looks like me. It has never stopped me from doing what I believe is right or for fighting the status quo. This journey, including being a single mom, working my way through college, has given me the experience, has built the relationships, and has helped me has also helped turn me into a leader I am today. Ready to be your next Congresswoman. My leadership regionally has delivered new infrastructure and jobs. That's why I have the endorsements of the majority of mayors, county supervisors, city council members, and community leaders. They know that I will be effective in Washington, D.C., and that I'll deliver on my promises to you. As mayor of Dublin, I've led the city to the best places to live designations, building housing at every level of affordability, and advancing policies that reduce barriers to job growth. I know how to bring down the cost to build new housing and prioritize growing small businesses to strengthen our local economy. My top priorities in Congress: As Director of Healthcare Services for an Alameda County Supervisor, I work to expand access to affordable, quality healthcare. I'll do the same in Congress. Washington is broken, Congress is hardly working, and has lost touch with the people they are supposed to serve. While billionaires get tax cuts, families are struggling to afford the basics. It seems no one in power cares, and in Congress, you will always come first for me. I will show up every day ready to work on the big issues, like the rising cost of living, including housing, childcare, and healthcare. And I will fight to ensure we aren't the last generation to do better than our parents and dream bigger for our kids. Again, thank you for being here on everyone's busy schedules.
Thank you. And that is well within time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the clock, and we will still reserve your time for Q&A if that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Raise your virtual hand. If you are having a hard time raising your virtual hand, if you're on the phone, feel free to unmute yourself. So right here, it looks like I have the first question comes from, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Nyanth. Do you want to unmute yourself?
You got it, Jackie. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining, Melissa. Melissa, as a young person living in the Tri-Valley, one of my biggest concerns is housing here is really, really expensive. I'd love to be able to live in the community that I grew up in. So could you talk a little more to the work that you've done to build housing and make housing affordable in our community?
Sure, that's such a great topic, and thank you for asking it. I think it's really important that, especially a young individual like you, is starting to think about that. I have two young adults. One of my young adults still lives here at home because it is so expensive to live out, not even just in the Tri-Valley, but in California itself. I will give you a little bit of my, and I see Jean Josie on the call, so I'm not going to take full credit. This is the council's doing, but we were leaders to be able to bring in many types of affordable housing. Some of our favorite projects, which is actually being built right now, is off of Tassajara, where we're being able to negotiate with developers to bring in a little bit more affordable housing where they build it themselves, and also we as a city also put aside funding for first-time home buyers to be able to put a down payment. The average person buying a home for the first time is now about 40 years old. So bringing some of the knowledge, some of the institutional knowledge that I've myself and the council members have created in the city of Dublin, bringing that to DC is really important. Speaking to mortgage companies to be able to lower the loan cost for first-time home buyers. But as we know, we have to build more housing, and we have to be able to bring the cost of materials down. At the federal level, we are able to bring the cost of materials down in order for us to be able to bring those cost savings to the developers, to entice them to develop. Also, being able to make sure that cities that are doing the job and the cities that are building get rewarded. That's how you're going to entice cities to be able to produce more units. Making sure that we're producing the high density housing close to transit. That's something that Dublin has done as well. But definitely starting a big program where first-time home buyers can work to be able to get their foot in the door, to be able to entice cities to do their job on building as well, and then 3, lower the cost down. So Nian, thank you. I wish you luck, and I hope you're able to stay in the Tri-Valley.
There's a comment in the chat. Melissa, is there a chance that the Dems will take over Congress in November? If you were elected, what would be your first priority?
There's always a chance. I always have hope for our Dems to keep fighting the good fight. As you know, there's a special election right now. We're being asked to kind of possibly, we received a letter to possibly stay out of the special election because we know what is really important for the Democratic Party to stop Trump and Trump's outrageous, madness that he has going on right now. So we can actually, as folks that have already have signed up to run for the regular election, we have the ability to have a caregiver in this position. So all of us have received that letter. We're hoping that every person has signed. I do believe everybody has signed except for one person. But to answer your question about the November election, I do believe we could take over in November. One priority that I would have to bring forward is to assist in the immigration law and to hold the immigration lawyers that are taking advantage of working hard men and women that are just trying to be able to, get their documentation in a timely manner, reform our immigration process, be able to work, be able to have more employees to get the process working for the paperwork that needs to get done. But at the end of the day, just a little bit of familiarity that my dad had to go through. It took him many, many years in order for him to get a citizenship, and he saved his money every month to be able to pay an attorney to help him. And a lot of these folks get taken advantage of. And that's why it takes so long in order for them to get their immigration or to be able to become citizens. And it's very unfortunate because we do have to hold the bad actors, the bad attorneys, and I'm not saying all attorneys are, but some of the bad attorneys that are taking advantage of these individuals that have taken so long to be able to get their citizen status.
Other questions? Raise your virtual hand or put a comment in the chat.
And I just wanted to add, since we don't have anybody asking any more questions, but that is one law about the immigration reform. But let's just face it, and let's just bring it out right now, is that affordability is huge. And to be able to drive all the affordability issues that I've been bringing forward, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, whether it's childcare, those are all going to be my priorities. Definitely, we are all in many situations where we're seeing our neighbors, we're seeing our friends and family that are struggling every single month just to be able to make ends meet.
Let's see. I do see a hand somewhere. Let's see where it's coming
Now,
from.
Jackie, before you go to hands, we have two folks with questions in the comments.
Go ahead, Richard. I'll let you ask those.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jackie. Sorry, folks, I'm late. Some tech issues, but Melissa, thank you so much for being here. Jamie had a
Welcome.
question in the chat. As a member of Congress, how would you support small businesses in the Tri-Valley?
Well, this is one of, I can say, Jean, I know you're on the phone or on the Zoom. We're always trying to bring in small businesses, not only just in Dublin, but the Tri-Valley, the entire congressional 14th district. I had lunch with Mayor Salinas this afternoon, and we were just talking about that same subject, but at the federal level, being able to work with small business owners with federal employee taxes, that's huge for them. Many folks can't afford to have a lot of employees, especially if you're a small business and you're also just trying to get ahead. Being able to provide small business loans for the first time folks that are going out there and taking that leap of faith, and also putting their own extra money that they've saved for so long to be able to start a business is crucial. One thing that we did in Dublin is when we had businesses come in, for example, Dick's Sporting Good, we forgave their sales tax revenue for 5 years. So being able to, at federal level, to help with employee taxes is something that I know small businesses are really wanting to be able to have assistance in. And another item that could be brought forward is workforce development. Workforce development at the federal level not only provides for small businesses, but they also provide for bigger corporations as well. And so making sure that I stay in touch with all the small businesses here in the Congressional District 14 is huge. But having those relationships with the mayors and the city managers, they're the ones that let us know which small businesses are coming in. So making sure that we are being able to keep that line of communication and accessibility on a monthly basis.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Ellis, I see your hand is up.
Okay. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for coming into our club, and I know you've been a long time member.
Yes, Alice. Nice to
Uh,
see you.
there's a law that says that after 60 days of engaging in a military whatever, the president has to come to Congress to ask for funding. That's up in 8 days. We're on day 52 of this situation. If you were a member of Congress, how would you vote on pulling funding from this excursion war, whatever you want to call it, in Iran?
Aren't they?
That the idea was Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. Um, I would not go forward with funding this war. This war is, there's no end in sight. There has been no sense of decorum at all whatsoever. So I do not support funding this war. One thing that I do want to share, I feel that 60% and it's increasing with Americans that they do not fund this war. So at this time, I would not fund them at all, and I do not support it at all.
Thank you all so much. Um, Melissa, there is a question in chat from JD. It's a little bit of a tough question, but I'll ask it anyway. Bart's fiscal woes are well known. As president of the board, why should voters promote you to Congress?
So I definitely understand and know that transportation is very important to not only to Northern California and the Bay Area, where we need this tremendously, Southern California needs it tremendously, but the entire state of California needs transportation. So um, I'm not sure, JD, but I've been on BART for almost 2 years, and the last 2 years have been increasingly different than they have before. COVID brought a lot of these changes to BART. Uh, I'm not sure if you're aware, but BART was generating 70% of their revenue at the sales box, at the fare box. And so many transit agencies do not do that at all whatsoever. Our Tri-Valley bus system, it's affected all the systems. It has not just affected BART, but it's a trickling effect. It affects BART, it affects the bus systems, it affects Muni, Caltrain, Capital Corridor, AC Transit. So I will tell you these things is one, BART has never been better than it has been in the last 2 years. We were able to put all of our fare gates up at all of our 50 stations on time before the deadline. And we were also able to bring down crime by 42%. We also have our police officers out there. We have our crisis intervention folks that are helping unsheltered folks to be able to get the necessity and the coordination and also the assistance for them to be able to get help. And so I truly feel that BART has turned around the last 2 years. I'm not sure if you watched our last meeting, our last couple meetings, but the board has directed our staff to go back go back to the drawing board, to go and see what changes we can bring forward, whether the even though if the our bill passes in November, and they are constantly making changes on and bringing that back to the board. It will be up to the board if any stations are to be closed. And it's also up to the board on us changing the headways. And so those are all the options that we're looking at. But I will guarantee you right now that BART has never been cleaner, has never been safer, and we'll also work very hard to keep doing what we're doing. So I hope you vote. I hope that you are a transit believer, but because we definitely need transit and we cannot lose transit at all whatsoever.
Thank you, Melissa. We have one last question for you before we go into closing. It's from Thomas. Thomas in the chat asks, would you vote to stop sending weapons to Israel?
So I am not supporting what is going on into the war right now. So I think you know what my answer would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Um, That is all the time we have. Thank you so much for coming to our meeting, Melissa. I'll give you a minute to close up with any final thoughts that you might have. Jackie will start the timer whenever you're ready.
So I want to say thank you for your past support. This is one of my favorite Democratic parties here in the Tri-Valley, and it's always bringing all of us together, not only in Alameda County, but Contra Costa as well. So thank you for everyone that made their busy schedules and work it out this evening to be here. I have made the 14th district my home for the last 30 years. I've raised my kids here. I became a volunteer in our community, which led me to eventually run for city council and then mayor. Now I'm president of BART Board of Directors, and I am elected delegate to the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. Serve as a director of healthcare services for a supervisor, and I'm a public policy professional. We are in a cost of living crisis, and I will take my leadership and experience to Congress to lower cost and expand economic opportunity. I promise to show up not only on election year and work very hard every day to make life more affordable. In Congress,
Per-
you will always come first. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, BART President, excuse me, Melissa Hernandez. Thank you for coming to the club, and we know you've been an active member of the club, and thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you. Take care. Good night, all.
Thank you very much. I know State Senator Dr. Aisha Wahab is next in the lineup. Aisha, I am going to beg for forgiveness here. Cheryl Cook-Kallio just joined
No
the
worries.
meeting. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. I
No
know
worries.
Cheryl is here. Jackie, if we can pin Cheryl.
Yep, let me find her. Hold on.
And folks, I just want to give you guys all a heads up. Cheryl Cook-Kallio was also my Woman of the Year this year. So she didn't get to be on the Senate floor, but I just wanted to make sure that all of you guys in the district actually know that she got that honor. So congratulations again.
Thank
Oh,
you so much, Aisha. Oh,
Cheryl,
Cheryl.
I need you unmuted.
Thank you.
Cheryl, we'll give you 5 minutes to, since you're running basically unopposed democratically in this race, we'll give you 10 minutes, 10 minutes in total. We'll give you 5 minutes to for your opening statement, and Jackie will start the timer whenever you're ready.
Okay. So first of all, I want to beg your pardon. I'm actually in Washington, D.C., doing one of my most favorite things in the world to do. I'm at the national finals for the We the People competition. And as vice chair of the Center for Civic Ed board, I had the honor of giving Foothill High School in Pleasanton the trophy because California won. There were 47 teams, 1,200 students, and I got 3 days of listening to brilliant kids talk about the Constitution and how they would apply it. And it, there were electeds there that said they wouldn't judge because they felt that the kids knew more than they did. They were right. So many of them were right. So I appreciate your indulgence. So it's very late here, and I'm coming off of 4 days of no sleep. But it is the thing that fills me with hope, and it's one of the reasons that I think education is so important, and that people continue to be engaged in making sure that all students are well served. And so I am asking again that you all support me for a second term on the Alameda County Board of Education as your trustee. One of the things that we have done in the last 4 years that I'm extremely proud of is that we have upped the level of educational access that students that have typically had trouble either in a traditional school, we have students that are teen mothers, students that are trying to recover credits for whatever reason. This past December, we had a student that is incarcerated in the juvenile justice system as a lifer, which means he's in till he's 23, graduate from Cal. And those kinds of things have never happened before. We have kids that are dual enrollment in community college. We have a partnership with the trades that not only helps students that are in our care, that are in our school system, but students that are in a traditional 9 through 12 system understand what they need to do to be able to get apprenticeships and become, get a job that pays a living wage. And it's much more difficult to get into an apprenticeship than it is to walk onto a community college campus and apply. So we're very proud that we've expanded that and have really developed a very strong relationship with the tradesmen in our community, tradesmen and women. We also have former people that work in the trades that are credentialed teachers that are trained as counselors that are helping out. And so we have seen that explode and we're thrilled about it. The other thing I'm extremely proud of, and one of the things that I ran on 4 years ago, is to increase the number of clear credentialed teachers in Alameda County. And one of the impediments to it is people that work in the school system that are good with kids, that know they're good teachers, can't quit their jobs in order to go back to school and spend $30,000 a year to get credentialed. And so we now have a program where they can apply, become an intern or a resident teacher. And for about $750 a year, we have a partnership with the university. We do some subsidies. They stay in their jobs, so they're working, but they end up with a clear credential. And I think we have cleared 250 teachers who are now working in Alameda County through that program. In addition to that, many of you know that have had kids in school, that if your child has an IEP, very often they're required to have a paraeducator in that classroom. And there was also a tremendous shortage in paraeducators. And what happens, because by law, you have to have that person there, it has to be contracted out, extraordinarily expensive. And we have now instituted a certification program that every 3 times a year or so, we're certifying 30 to 45 paraeducators, all of whom are going to work in Alameda County. And so those are really tangible things that have given students increased access to better eh, quality education. And I'm very proud about that. And you all know that in my heart and soul, things that are important to me, the Constitution and education. And so I love being able to do both.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks so much. We'll open the floor up for a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put your question in chat. Neon, go for it.
Hi, Ms. Cook-Kallio. Thanks for coming out.
Of course.
First, I wanted to ask you. I'm going to be graduating high school this year, so this doesn't directly affect me, but it does affect a lot of the people that I care about. As we're all probably aware of, a lot of schools in our district and throughout the state are going to be facing a lot of budget cuts. Teachers are getting laid off. I know it's not much that we can do at the local level. A lot of that funding comes from the state, but as a local educational leader, what are some of the things that you'd like to employ, some of the tools maybe that you could use to prevent these cuts from hurting students?
I really appreciate that. And as many of you know, I spent 40 years in a classroom. And so this is a cyclical thing. And you have to use the money that you get last year for this year's students. It's a crazy way of funding schools. And we're in declining enrollment. And so all of the districts in our area, to some degree or another, are experiencing problems with funding because the costs have gone up, but the number of students have gone down. And as you say, there's not a lot we can do about that. It is really not within the province of the County Office of Ed we don't fund education. We don't have a revenue stream. The one thing that we can do, and we're very proud about this fact, is that we can pressure legislators and educate people in the Assembly and the Senate in terms of why this funding formula is a problem. I mean, if you have money from last year and you have to use it on this year's students and your number of students go up, then you're using less money for more students. And then obviously if the students go down and you have a flush year, it seems to be somewhat uneven. And the other thing that people don't realize is that there's two different pots of money. There's general fund money and there's capital improvement. And many of you know that some of these schools that were built in Alameda County in the 60s are falling apart. And we used to depend on developer money to build those schools. And there is no developer money. There's not enough developer money to make a difference. And so you have to pass a bond issue, and the bond is then matched with state funding. The problem with that in poorer communities um, you're basically cutting into people's grocery money. And so we really need to look at how to fund schools differently. And that's a long-term conversation. But it's what you're describing this year is something that probably I did 10 or 12 times in the 40 years that I was a teacher, and it's crushing. And it matters to you. It matters to that young person that's going to be a senior next year and the young person who's going to be in kindergarten, because you're only in that grade one time. And so, the teachers and the schools, we may be able to ride that wave. The students lose out. And it's not, education is absolutely critical to the infrastructure of a participatory democracy. It is what causes communities to be strong. And for us not to understand that whether you have children in school or not, whether you have children at all, investing in education makes us all stronger. So the one thing that I can do, and I do often, is advocate for good legislation and how we address the educational needs of the students. And as a county board of ed, we have actually introduced legislation in the last 2 years, and we had our first bill passed. Obviously we had sponsors in the assembly, but we had our first bill passed, I think last year, and it had to do with increased funding for kids who needed some more time to finish high school because of whatever circumstances, foster kids, unhoused students, whatever it was, didn't quite have enough time to get across the finish line. And we've actually expanded that opportunity. So it's a very difficult question. It's a good question. It actually crushes my soul when I see things taken away from young people.
Thank you, Neon, and thank you, Cheryl. I'm afraid that is all the time we have, but Cheryl, I know there was a question from Ron for you in the chat. I don't know if you're able to stay on and answer him in the chat.
Okay. And Ellis, you actually can send me a note if you'd like also. One thing I would like to say is, Senator Wahab, I was tremendously honored to be named your Woman of the Year. And I know that it kind of tickled me when I realized the reason I was missing the first part of the meeting tonight is because I was again doing civic education stuff, which is what you mentioned, with your kind words. And so thank you for mentioning that. And thank you for honoring me. I know that I stand on the shoulders of many women that have, made a difference in our community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so
Um,
much. Cheryl, do you want to take 1 minute? Totally up to you, but do you want to take 1 minute to wrap up with a closer or any final thoughts?
Yeah, I very quickly, what I would say is, if you need more information, please reach out. My personal information is all over the place. I do have a website, Cook-Kallio.com, which has some information about me, and also people who have endorsed me. I have enjoyed the support of this club for many, many, many years, and I want to thank you all for the work that you do, because I think that it's extraordinarily important, um, and most of which I think is the community that's built when we all meet together and be able to talk about these hard issues. So, please vote June 2nd. That's a terminus for me. I don't go on to November. It's a plurality vote. And so make sure you get down to the end of the ballot, go all the way to the end of the ballot. And I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks for being here. And if folks missed it in the beginning, Cheryl's she's currently on the Alameda County Board of Education for Area 7, and she's running for re-election. Um,
Yes.
there we go. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. And thank you, Senator Wahab, again for allowing me to go first. I know you're really busy.
No worries.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, speaking of Senator Wahab, we do have Aisha here. Aisha, you are next in line. There you go, spotlighted. Aisha, you'll have 5 minutes for an opener. Jackie will start your timer whenever you're ready.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Go ahead.
All right. Hi, folks. My name is Aisha Wahab. I'm the state senator that represents the East Bay and the South Bay. Currently, I serve as the assistant majority leader in the state Senate, and as the AAPI Legislative Caucus vice chair. I'm very proud of the work that we have done. I just want to share with you all, I am running for Congress to represent this district and ensure that our district has a voice in DC. I will tell you just a little bit about myself for some of those of you who don't actually know me. Um, my parents came to this country seeking the American dream when the Soviet invasion happened in Afghanistan. I was born in New York City. I was very, very lucky to be born on this soil. But shortly after, my father was actually murdered. It's a case that still remains unsolved, and it really actually does trickle into a person even 30 years later, right? And I lived in the foster care system. I grew up in Alameda County, went through K through 12, pretty much in Fremont, and was adopted and raised largely in the Bay Area. So very, very proud. I view myself as a Bay Area person, and the Tri-Valley is actually very close to me because of the fact that my first real organizing for a presidential election and even some of the local elections, including Congressmember Pete Stark's election. And this is when we had still the wands and barcodes, for those of you guys that actually do door-to-door canvassing. I am very familiar with this district, and I have family throughout this district, and things are changing. During the Great Recession, we thought that that was going to be the big shift, but we're still seeing, a lot of people struggle. During the Great Recession, my parents, who had a small business, their business tanked because of the economy. It was a retail store, if you will. And eventually our home was foreclosed on. And I always say that the banks, um, were bailed out multiple times. They got the big cash infusion because they were too big to fail. They were able to keep the properties that became foreclosed, and they eventually sold them again. And, years later, I'm still a renter. And the work that I've done in the legislature, and I want to highlight this because a lot of people talk about it, but I've actually done it. I have capped security deposits at 1 month's rent. I fought price gouging. I put a $300 million for down payment assistance. I capped HOA fines at
Okay,
$100.
thank you. I'm gonna come over in a second. I'm gonna be done.
Okay,
If
sorry.
whoever is okay there.
Look, I reclaimed my time, guys. Okay. I expanded the renter's tax credit and protected homeowners with these zombie mortgages, the strongest in the nation. I've also tackled a lot of the healthcare concerns. My father had diabetes prior to the Affordable Care Act. He was uninsurable. He finally got insurance. And then eventually he had dialysis every other day and eventually a kidney transplant. This past year, we just capped insulin to $35 for a month supply. We also, have $11 insulin pens, and I've expanded a lot of mental health and substance use coverage, as well as tackling some of our public safety concerns. Making sure that if you are engaging in organized retail theft, it's a crime. Right. And just protecting our small businesses, protecting our communities, and so much more. And like I said, I'm very proud of the work that I've done. I do believe that, I have pushed the issues that people talk about. But, I also am able to bring a lot of different people together. And that is largely why I have the endorsement of the California Democratic Party, as well as the majority of elected officials in this district. And even different characters that don't normally line up with each other, from the chiefs of police to nurses and healthcare workers and teachers. And so I really just want to be able to build a bridge for everybody to be able to represent this district wholeheartedly and really be the voice of reason in DC, even though we know it's absolutely toxic at this moment. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. All right, if anyone has any questions for Aisha, please either raise your hand or drop it in the chat, knowing that I will prioritize questions from folks who have not already had a chance yet to ask a question. Cece has a question for you, Aisha. This district has been represented by an individual that has frequently failed to deliver on his promises. How can we trust that you will follow through on what you claim you will do? And how do you plan to work with Congress as a whole during this administration in order to get things done?
Definitely. So I will be very, very clear. I don't know what promises that Congressmember Swalwell made. I think that clearly he has betrayed, this district and much more. And so I can't speak to him any more than that. I was one of the few people that did not endorse him for governor. And, for me, when I was an advocate working for, our community in the Tri-Cities and much more, I didn't feel like I could actually have a conversation on important issues, especially as an Afghan American. And, I don't necessarily want to ever see that again. I want to be able to have an open door. I want to have a conversation with people. I want to explain why I vote the way I vote. Um, Even now, when people bring up a vote or a bill or, what happened, I am pretty transparent on what is going on and why. And sometimes, bills, for example, have poison pills. And it's interesting because, we vote on a lot of things that other people bring forward. But to your point on delivering, I have pushed, I ran for Hayward City Council, specifically talking about rent stabilization. Within 6 months, I pushed the city to actually, expand rent stabilization to from 1,000 units to 10,000 units, give more tenant protections, increase the minimum wage, was one of the efforts as well. So I largely try to do the work of this district, and a lot of the bills that I have pushed actually come from my district. In fact, out of like 28 bills that were signed by the governor, about 24 were even bipartisan. And so I'm able to talk to the Republicans to say, hey, we need to do more. And in Congress, I think that more conversations need to happen. And right now, I'm talking to a lot of Congress members. And I'll be honest with you, I sometimes hang up the phone and realize they weren't listening, right? And so, as much as we may disagree, we also need to understand and listen each other for each other's perspective. So, that is my commitment. And I'm not going to be perfect, but my team here, we have regular town halls, we have small business roundtables, we have a lot of different community events, and we want to be accessible. That's the whole point of serving, is you serve the people. So that's my whole goal.
Thank you, Aisha. I see two questions in the chat that are both about Israel, so I'll combine them. Linda asks, what is your stance on funding Israel? And then Harjab asks, has Israel committed genocide against the Palestinian people? And what should the US do differently in Middle East foreign policy?
Definitely. I think that this conversation, some people get very upset and it has become very polarizing topic. And I've been very, very clear. I do believe in a strong United States-Israeli relationship. It has been longstanding, decades, in fact. And I will continue to support that relationship. However, I will also highlight a number of things. Number one is Benjamin Netanyahu in particular. His policies, in my opinion, have largely destabilized the region. And I think that he's very similar to President Trump in how he has been governing and moving policies forward. And I think that a lot of my Jewish colleagues even agree with me. And this is not an issue of identity. And I want to be very clear. I know that anti-Semitism is on the rise. I see it. When you are on Twitter or X, it is ridiculous to see that even pop culture celebrities like Kanye West are selling swastika t-shirts. I would never, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would never think that that's the case. That could be possible here in America, where we fought the Nazis, right? Um, but I also want to highlight the fact that, when we are talking about Gaza and the Palestinian people, as much as I want peace and prosperity and safety and security and for the community to thrive in Israel, I want the same for the Palestinians, right? And it is not a zero-sum game. We are all human beings. We all live on this earth. We can all coexist. And when we are talking about the death toll of civilians in Gaza, you can literally point to organizations in Israel, Israeli organizations, Physicians for Human Rights, I believe, is one of the orgs. I can't remember, but they're out in Israel, and they have all labeled this as what they believe to be a genocide. And, who is at fault? It is all the world leaders that cannot just say, stop. Please just stop. Let's ensure that there's a ceasefire. Let's ensure that there's humanitarian aid. Let's ensure that there's dialogue and diplomacy. And I wholeheartedly, support human rights above all else. And I've been very transparent about that. My colleagues, just to highlight this, I'm very proud of the fact that my Jewish caucus colleagues and I wrote a human rights resolution that passed the state Senate. It is the first one in the nation to just highlight, hey, we need to do better. We believe in human rights. We want to protect innocent lives, and we also want to hold perpetrators accountable. And moving forward is the direction that I'd like to take. And again, building bridges. It is not a zero-sum game. We are all human beings, and I think that most people would agree with me.
Thank you, Aisha. A couple more questions here. We'll try to get through all of them. Jeffrey asks, what have you done to increase the availability of affordable housing, and what will you do when you get to Congress?
Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
Yes. What have you done to increase the availability of affordable housing, and what will you do when you get to Congress?
What have I done on affordable housing? I will say affordable housing is a big, huge priority of mine. I have shared with you all the fact that, in our current day, the average first-time home buyer is roughly the age of 40, when my parents' generation was at the age of 24. Affordable housing does not necessarily always mean home ownership, even though I will always prioritize home ownership. We have seniors on fixed incomes that cannot afford to live here. We have folks that are deeply, deeply struggling, from utility costs to housing costs to healthcare costs and so much more. So I am for the renter and the home buyer, not necessarily the developer. We have to make it very easy to develop housing, but we also need to put guidelines on what type of housing are we trying to build, right? And the affordable housing requirements on a lot of laws have been completely removed because of the conversation of supply and demand. However, the supply that we are building is not for the community. These are $3,000 units, $3,500 units, even $4,000 units here in this district, right? So I have always prioritized affordable housing, and that means housing at different income levels. I am the first in the nation to have a bill on social housing, even that was signed by the governor, that prioritized moderate, low, and extremely low income housing, with the schedule of potentially building 1.4 million units. I've stated with you all, I think price gouging and the HOA fees, as well as the renters security deposit, all of those things have really hit the lowest income individuals. And I've had laws that said, hey, we're going to put up guardrails so people aren't abused and taken advantage of. Right now in the state, we have a rent ceiling of 10%. But people on fixed incomes and Social Security do not get a 10% increase year over year. The apartment, industry, if you will, they have outperformed the stock market in the last 30 years, every single year straight. So I really want to highlight there's a number of different ways to really prioritize affordable housing, making sure people are housed and stay housed, making sure that we have safeguards to remove kind of the price gouging and the policies that allow people to take advantage of these lower income individuals, making sure that we have stronger tenant protections, making sure we have down payment assistance. Those are all things I have done and I will continue to work on. But also making sure that people can purchase their first home. And, in Congress, I want to highlight to you all that I have a deep concern when people are selling their homes, but yet the revenue that they are generating from that sale, it's absolutely taxed at a ridiculous level. So we're able to save $250,000, which is nothing realistically when you're talking about $1.4 million units. And I have worked with the realtors as well, even right now. to ban private equity firms from purchasing homes and for us having to compete. And I think that that needs to happen at a congressional level too. Monopoly laws. There's so many different things that we can talk about on ensuring that housing is affordable, but also accessible to first-time home buyers and those that are trying to downsize and much more. So it's a complex thing and it's not just one answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Aisha. We have one more question and then we'll end it there. But Jackie, I see you raising your hand.
Yes, thank you. I worked in the cable industry for a long time, and I've watched some of these acquisitions and company takeovers. And now we're at a point where Paramount is merging with Warner Brothers, and it's a huge monopoly where it's going to hurt consumers, it's going to hurt the industry, it's going to hurt actors. What can you do to help us stop? If you get elected, what can you do to help us stop this merger dead in its tracks?
Definitely. So number one, I believe that, when we're talking about capitalism, right? Capitalism works if there are true safeguards to ensure capitalism works, which basically means competition, right? And what we are seeing, not only on the merger that you were talking about, but for example, there was just today, the Attorney General Rob Bonta is actually pursuing this lawsuit that has been around for a little while. But for example, Amazon is telling their vendors to increase your price so we can also increase the sell price of the particular product. We are seeing this in a wide variety of industries, including the healthcare industry, right? And one of the things in the healthcare industry is the pharmacy benefits manager, which is kind of the middleman. It's not the pharmaceutical company that develops the drug, but it's the ones that go to the doctors and try to push it and sell it and make a profit off of it. I do believe that we need far more safeguards, especially in all of the industries, not just one particular industry, right? The monopoly situation, back in the 90s, we tackled some of these issues, right? When we're talking about the telecom industry and much more. We have not seen in nearly 25, 26 years a big tackle of this particular issue with monopolies. And monopolies, to be quite frank, it's a concept that largely was around the steel industry during interstate trade. This is, obviously an old, definition, but we are seeing people get smarter in working around the laws. We do need to strengthen our antitrust laws. We need to go after bad actors. We need to have higher penalties. And we also need to break up these large, organizations. For example, even Facebook, the fact that they also technically, Meta also owns Instagram, right? So the social media is not different, right? When we're talking about Microsoft, right? If you take a look at a wide variety of different industries, whether we're talking about the tech industry, whether we're talking about healthcare, I would like to personally ensure that we are working to strengthen competition and ensure that smaller businesses are supported and ensure that they are not taken advantage of and there's laws to protect them and hold bad actors accountable. This has not happened in a long time, and I think that there are efforts there. I just want to be able to support that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you both. Aisha, will give you 1 minute for a closer, and your timer will start whenever you begin.
Definitely. I appreciate all of you guys. I genuinely actually enjoy this format of the Q&A because I actually do enjoy responding directly. I am running for the seat just to be able to support our district. And I think that we are at a turning point in our history in so many different ways, whether we are talking about war, whether we're talking about social services, whether we are talking about the state of our nation and its future. There's a lot at risk here. And I have served this district, roughly 55% of this district. I have been able to lead with ideas and actually get them across the finish line. I have been able to build bridges, even with those on the other side of the aisle. And I want to be able to represent you and be your voice. And that's the honest truth. And I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the Democratic Party, as well as I'd be honored to earn your endorsement. So Thank you again for having me.
Perfect.
Right on time, too. Very nice. Okay, well, thank you so much, Aisha, for being here. Appreciate your time as always. All right. Next candidate is Carin. Let's see if Karen's on here. There she is. All right, I see Carin right there.
Hello.
All right, perfect. Carin, thank you so much for being here and thanks so much for being patient with us. We'll give you 5 minutes for an opening statement to tell us about your campaign and candidacy, and your time will begin whenever you start.
Okay. So thank you for tonight. It's great to be here and to meet. I see everyone. I know I've come to your meetings before, but so I've spent the last number of months talking to voters, understanding the issues that matter most, and honestly deciding if I should run. As you might know, I'm an outside candidate, but early in the process, meeting voters, I would unknowingly introduce myself to someone in local politics, including a candidate. I'd extend my hand and my card and say, "Hi, I'm Carin for Congress." To see the look on their face was priceless. You know, who are you? Have you done this before? Are you a celebrity? Do you have money? I continued to talk and smile and share my story undeterred, because I'm in this race for the voters. I'm in this race for the seniors who don't know they could lose the right to vote from home. I'm in this race for the district, especially Livermore Labs, which has losing its funding for its state-of-the-art energy project, the future of alternative energy. I'm in this race to protect democracy. I know that sounds grand, but we've never had a shame-free president determined to tear down our institutions. And if I thought Washington was working or would work, I wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't be on the campaign trail. So why me? I'm not a career politician. I'm a representative of this beautiful bay. I grew up in Antioch. At that time, my mom was on welfare, and I got into a great school, and it was a game changer for me. I studied political economy, graduated, and began working with healthcare clients across the country, dedicating a long career to making it better for patients to get quality healthcare. I then I worked from that firm out of New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. And I mention that because, you know, my heart is always on national politics, and I've lived in a lot of places and I've worked in a lot of places across this beautiful country. Every week I was on the road working directly with healthcare clients throughout the country. I was in the hospitals and with the health insurance companies. I saw firsthand how caregivers were working hard to deliver quality care, but also witnessed health insurance companies that prioritize shareholder value over affordability. Fast forward a few years, when Trump won the first time in 2016, I cried, but then I got to work. I got a master's in governance, researching if voter suppression could swing elections, then began working for the Democratic Party. I worked for Democrats Abroad, which is a voter turnout champion, founded Women to Win that tirelessly promoted Democratic women running for U.S. House and U.S. Senate seats. And I began doing the important work for the people. But during this time, my then 16-year-old daughter was diagnosed with a rare disease that leads to blindness. So believing the country was in good hands after Biden and Harris won, I shifted my efforts and began working for a San Francisco-based nonprofit. And during that time, I created jobs for blind and low vision individuals. I led workforce development and business development. The nonprofit runs a Bay Area manufacturing facility that employs blind and low vision individuals who live in the district. They use public transportation to get to and from work, but their commutes take many, many hours, and they deal with that last mile problem. So then when we lost again in 2024, not this district, but in the country, I decided that I would return to politics. And so I'm here in front of you tonight to fight against the lies, take back the House, and shore up the weaknesses in our Constitution. So that's my intro.
Thank you, Carin. Appreciate it. And we love a candidate who sticks to the time and even ends early. So that's
Yes.
great. All right, we'll open up the floor for questions. If anyone has questions for Carin, either raise your hand or put it as a comment in the chat and we will read it out loud. So far, I'm not. Oh, I see Ellis raised his hand. Ellis, go for it.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming to the club. I saw an article in the East Bay Times, the same as the Mercury, and it said that there was a Democrat running for office that put in $1.2 million into their campaign. Is that you?
No. You can go check the FEC. I wish I had a $1.2 million in the campaign. No, you can go check the FEC filing. No, we are a very grassroots campaign and do not have much campaign cash. So, and that's why if you go look at my website, it looks like we are small and community based, and that's exactly how I'm running this. So, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Jackie, I see your hand up.
I may be calling you after this meeting at some point because my mother has macular degeneration and
Okay.
losing your
Yeah.
eyesight when you're old is very, very difficult. So I
Yes.
may be
My daughter has retinitis pigmentosa. So it's there. We could have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we will. But my question for you is why this race? Why jump right into the deep end and not
Totally
in a
get it.
shallow pond?
Yes, no, I get it. And I know that was the reason why I did that sort of clever opening because I was, everything from like a pat on my head to how dare you, and for me, politics is my sports. It's what I followed. And I know that you need to have more than just an interest to actually jump into such a big seat. I absolutely get that. But what I was trying to convey is, so I studied political economy undergrad. And then I went back to school and I started doing that hard work. But this is all that I pay attention to. I pay attention to whenever there are hearings, whenever anybody's getting confirmed, whenever there's policy decisions. This is what I pay attention to. And I also think that we're doing something wrong if we're losing to this guy. And I feel like we need to broaden our appeal. And that's where, I've been saying from the time I started talking to voters about my sincere interest in making sure that we're talking to those who maybe don't pay that much attention and bringing them in and having conversations across the aisle. And I think I'm pretty successful at that. In making sure that I keep asking questions and make sure, like, what is their issue? What do they care about? How do we communicate that our policies actually are working for them? And so that would be my goal, and being a true representative of the district. And that's also why I wanted to explain, I have this broad career. I've worked in the corporate world. I've worked in the nonprofit world. I've been on the front lines doing the work and understanding what issues people face. I've been both a stay-at-home mom and a working mom. I've been stressed about picking up my kids. I had breast cancer. My daughter has a disability. All of these things absolutely matter to me on a personal basis. And I want to make sure that any policy that I write thinks about how it will actually be executed. And is it possible to actually deliver upon something?
Thank you. And if I may follow up on another follow-up question, what do you see in the other candidates that makes you say, nope, they're not doing it, and I got to get in this race? What is it that you have different than all these other candidates?
No, that's a great point. And my concern is that some of the candidates in the race aren't going to really be in the middle, aren't going to actually speak, because there's quite a few Republicans and independents in the district, and I want to make sure that we're actually taking them into account. And I am a lifelong Democrat. You can go look it up. I am a lifelong Democrat. I'm not a dino, I guess is what it would be. But I do feel like you do need to, if we're going to make progress, we have to have common sense, middle of the road solutions, and we actually find what can we agree on so that we can move it forward. And I'm absolutely committed to that. And I give this example. It's a pretty easy example, but the Epstein Transparency Act, that was Ro Khanna and Tom Massey working their coalitions to get that across the finish line. There's lots of other examples of that. And so I would want to stay laser focused on what's the common points that we can actually advance forward. And I'm not sure. And I think some of the others in the race do not have that national perspective. So to be local in a city government role doesn't necessarily translate to the national level. And I did not mention here, but I was 5 years overseas in the Netherlands. And so when we lived in a town that was where the US Embassy was sitting. And so I spent plenty of time talking to families who were government officials, diplomats, and talking about the issues that matter on the international scene as well. And my healthcare experience, as I said, I worked in the US for a very long time. And then I was a user of healthcare overseas. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My daughter was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. And so we used the Dutch healthcare system, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was timely, it was high quality. They used the same protocols as we use in the US. So I'll just share, I had a lumpectomy, I had radiation, I had oncology, and it was over the course of 3 months, and my out of pocket was under $800. And the reason is it's written into Dutch law that there cannot be a profit incentive for healthcare providers. And I will be laser focused on that. Like I have some ideas that are tactical, but I think we actually need to address when Reagan moved at healthcare to being a for-profit model, we really lost a lot.
Thank you, Carin. And thank you, Jackie. One question for you, Carin, and then I think we'll wrap it up. Ron in the chat asks, what is your position on the Iran war sans congressional approval?
Well, he illegally started the war, and we know that. And what's so heartbreaking is that Speaker Johnson is refusing to have the House vote, and so that we can stop. And you're right. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that back. I know it's come to the floor, and we keep having some Democrats cross over. So I'm going to correct myself there because there was a time that he wasn't bringing it to the House floor. But the president illegally started it. He's opened up a hornet's nest. He had no plan for going in. He has no plan for exit. It sounds like he was heavily influenced by other actors, namely Netanyahu. And we have no professional diplomats negotiating an exit, and it is absolutely impacting everyone. Not only are we seeing higher gas prices, higher energy prices, the loss of life and the potential for follow-on damage is terrible, and our position in the world is weakened from these actions of the president.
Thank you, Carin. Really appreciate you being with us. Does anybody else have a question for Carin? I know we have like 2 or 3 more minutes in case anyone did.
Oh, I thought I started. Anyways, that's fine. I thought I started a little late. That's okay. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah. We're keeping the floor open in case there are any questions, so we can
Okay.
definitely. I know we started a little late. Thank you for the reminder. Anybody else? Going once, going twice, or Carin, I'll give you a minute. We'll give you a minute to do your closer, and if anybody has any questions or wants to raise their hand during
Okay.
that, we can come back.
So as mentioned, I have my top priorities are healthcare, jobs, congressional oversight. I absolutely care about protecting the right to vote, making sure that we can safely and easily vote from home. But I feel like if we're going to accomplish any of this, we need bipartisan relationships. We need to focus on that, and we need to prioritize getting allies across the aisle. Because then we won't have whiplash politics that swing back and forth depending upon who's in power. Because talking to voters, they are very frustrated without the ability to plan. But I'm a common sense leader. My campaign is completely grassroots. I think you've already probably looked that up. I'm beholden to no one, and I really would enjoy your endorsement. So I seek your vote and your endorsement.
Thank you, Carin. Really appreciate you being here.
Okay.
Okay, we see Ellis has another question, so
Yes.
we'll allow it. Ellis, go for it.
I'm going to ask you about artificial intelligence. As a congressman or a congress member, you're going to have to look at legislation and start to regulate artificial intelligence. What are your feelings about that?
Yes. So I talk about AI for good and AI for bad. AI for good is going, it's a game changer when it comes to medical advances. I know China's already testing out a way to do early screening for pancreatic cancer. So we don't want to stop advances like that. And it's also for the blind and low vision community, Meta glasses are a game changer as well. AI allows them to navigate independently, and it's also making changes with what we use on our screens. So there's really fantastic applications. And talking to educators, they are very excited about ways to consistently assess their students and administrators. But as we know, AI allows it's increasing the chances for cybersecurity attacks. It's also fraudsters are using it to make more sophisticated to reach out to each one of us with more sophisticated outreach, and we could all be victims of that. So we absolutely need to put some guardrails in place. And I know guardrails is a bit of a loose word because we're afraid to say the word regulate the industry, but we have to actually, talking to AI leaders, they want those regulations or guardrails in place so that any development they do can be in the confines of their development is not wasted because it's in the confines of the industry. So we absolutely need to set some guardrails. And right now, our president is he's not interested in putting any guardrails around the tech leaders right now. And so that needs to change. And so within Congress, we need to put forward legislation. I know that Biden tried to do that, and we need to make Biden's legislation a bit more robust, given the advances in AI.
Should AI have the right to free speech that now humans have and corporations have? Because there's talk of giving AI corporate identity, which makes them have the right to free speech, and free speech includes lying.
Yeah,
And
I mean, and I think that what I'm hearing is the best way to counter that is actually through copyright protections. And I know that that's actively happening right now. So and for anyone who has their materials out on the internet, AI is taking that. And we need to make sure that we are protecting everyone's individual property. And I think that's the best way to push back against that. And then the lying, it goes beyond AI. I mean, it's on social media that we have where all of the platforms can put out something and then it's amplified in all the different areas. And I do know it's a complicated issue, right? The free speech and lying is a complicated issue, and it's really destroying our community. It's destroying anyone's trust. And so we do need to address that. And so I go back to regulations and copyright protections is my answer.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carin, and thank you, Alice, and thank you, Carin, for staying a couple minutes over.
Of course. Of course. I'm going to listen to the others speaking, so I'm just going to stay on. Great.
Perfect. Yes. And this goes for all the candidates. You're not obligated to stay on, but feel free to stay on as long as you like. But those were all of our candidates tonight for Congressional District 14. Jackie, if I can also remove the spotlight off Carin right there. Okay, perfect. And just as a reminder for folks, we will have a ballot sent out to eligible voting members at the end of this meeting. That ballot will contain endorsement questions for 3 races. Congressional District 14, which is the race that you just heard from Melissa, Dr. Aisha Wahab, as well as Carin on. It will also have Cheryl's race, which is Alameda County Board of Education Area 7. And then it will have the revote for our California governor endorsement, given our rescinding of former Congress member Eric Swalwell's endorsement. Okay, cool.
And one
And
more thing, Richard, just to add on, we will also have on that ballot our 2 candidates that we met in February for Congressional District 14. So Matt Ortega and
Victor Aguilar.
Victor Aguiar Jr. will also be on the ballot. So we heard from them earlier. If you want to get a refresh of that, it is on our YouTube channel, and you can watch that tonight. And do you want me to go ahead? Go ahead, Richard.
Sorry, just I'll wrap up. For folks' awareness, who may be newer to our meetings or don't really know how all this works, like our meetings are recorded, and Jackie does a great job of putting them on our YouTube channel, either the night of the meeting or the following day. So if anyone on this call wants to revisit an answer that they forgot or heard from a candidate or whatever, that recording will be online on our Tri-Valley Dems YouTube channel momentarily after our meeting. So you can always refer to that. And just as a reminder, eligible voting members are folks who have paid their dues at least 28 days in advance of the endorsement ballot. So I can't do the math right now, but I think that means if you paid your dues March 23rd or before, you are eligible to vote in this endorsement. If you paid your dues after March 23rd or whatever it was, you will unfortunately not be able to vote in this endorsement, but you will be eligible to vote in future endorsement ballots for this club. And if you are unsure about your eligibility, if you didn't receive a ballot after this meeting or have any general questions, email tvdemsmedia@gmail.com. We'll also drop that email in the chat, and you can email Jackie and I, and we will monitor and make sure that everyone who should be getting a ballot will get their ballot. Candidates need at least 60% of the vote to be endorsed. So those are the rules and the policies, but otherwise we can move along to other parts of the agenda. And Jackie, I'll turn it back over to you to intro a little bit of Connect Bay Area, as well as the transit measure that is going to be hitting ballots in November.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And again, as Richard stated, we'll be sending a ballot tonight. So after we hear from the Bay Area Transit measure, we will go ahead and be submitting ballots. You should expect that via email if you are a member. And again, Richard said a member in good standing has their dues paid at least 28 days ago to be able to vote. So I would like to, Richard, if you could help find these folks and maybe pin them and spotlight them for us. We've been
Jackie,
asking,
Jackie, could you clear up one thing? Are we going to get two ballots, one for the candidates and one for Bart?
No, so what we're going to do is we're going to send you a ballot for the candidates. We're going to have the presentation coming up here on BART. And there's a reason for my madness of not putting this on the ballot. We have been chomping at the bit to get out there and get signatures and get going on this transit measure. So we don't want to wait another moment. We're going to let these guys speak. They're going to give us their best case for why we need to protect BART and other transit and what this measure will do. And then we're going to decide with a voice vote tonight so that we can do next steps, because I don't want to have to wait 24 hours. I want to be able to get out there and start showing up at the BART stations and get going right away. So with that, I would like to introduce, to talk about Bay Area Transit, Carter Lavin, Kaleo Mark, and that should be Mark, not Marks, and our own very Manav Patel with Connect Bay Area to talk about the important transit measure. So guys, I'm going to let you go ahead and unmute yourself and have at it.
Thanks for having us. Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. And Jackie, I love your energy. Like, I want to get out there at the BART station, start collecting too. So I'm right there with you. I'll see you there. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaleo Mark. I'm a community organizer at a group called Seamless Bay Area, and I'm here with Manav to talk a little bit more about what this ballot measure is, like what we're up to, and how you could support. Um, so I'll just jump right into it. As I said, I'm here with a group called Seamless Bay Area. We organize transit riders across the 9-county region, and we're really fighting for a world-class, equitable, and accessible transit system. And we are one of the groups leading the signature gathering effort, which I'll talk a little bit more about as we go on. with a group called Transbay Coalition, two groups that are focused on building power with transit riders. And Manav, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, everyone. Obviously, you guys probably know me from our previous meetings. I'm also here with Connect Bay Area. I'm one of the one of the leads out here in the Tri Valley, helping to organize signatures out here in the Tri Valley, and I'm excited to we're excited to come here today and show you like why we need to help save public transit.
Yeah. And just actually before I start, I'm going to send something in the chat where you can learn how to get involved if you're excited or interested by anything I'm talking about while we're going through the slideshow. Okay, cool. So we're going to do some like level setting before we get more into what the ballot measure is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like the importance of transit in the Bay Area. Um, so we know that about 70% of Bay Area residents report taking public transit. And what this looks like is on any given day, that's about 1 million trips. You can see the majority of those are for work, but we know it's so vital for everything else that we do here in the Bay Area, going to school, visiting family and friends, going to that late night concert or dinner. So just really vital for our region. And I just wanted to pull out some data talking more about what transit means for the Tri-Valley specifically. So this is the most up-to-date ridership information we have from BART. And on any given weekday, about 5,000 trips are taken to both of the Tri-Valley stations in Dublin Pleasanton and West Dublin. And that number has been going up, as you can see, compared to a year ago, it's been going up about 15%. And we also know our local bus service is really important. So Wheels Lavta, the local bus agency, carries about 5,000 people any given weekday. And talking more about like who these transit riders are, we know that they are mainly working class people. So there's a lot of information on this slide. I will try to summarize it quickly, but at the bottom, you could see the percentage of household income by the Bay Area total population versus those of transit riders. And we see that almost 60% of people who take wheels are considered low income, having less than 50K in total household income. For BART, that's 35%, and those are just drastically larger numbers than the Bay Area population at whole, 2 and 4 times the total population. And we know that transit riders are also diverse. You know, they represent a large segment of our population. We see higher percentages of Latino and Black riders on our systems. And also, transit's really important for how people to get around because a lot of people who take transit do not have access to household vehicles for their trips. If you're interested in like climate justice or fighting climate change too, single occupancy vehicles are actually the largest single source of emissions in California, making up about 28% of all of them in 2023. So we know that transit's really important for reducing traffic, you know, reducing parking competition at big events in your neighborhood, then also, as I talked about, reducing pollution. So that is like the state of transit in the Bay. But as many of you guys might know, our transit agencies are in a little bit of a pickle with funding deficits. So this is not just a BART issue, which you probably heard the most about, but this is really a regional issue for many of our service providers. So Muni, BART, Caltrain, AC Transit, these are the biggest 4 operators in our region that carry about 80% of all ridership, and they are facing massive budget deficits. So you can see here, BART is facing about a 30% decline or inability to fund their operations. And you can see for Muni, that's 25%, Caltrain 42%. So these are gaping holes that would mean a lot less service if this problem goes unaddressed. This is just one example that was released at one of the BART board meetings showing what the train schedules would look like if they were to have to implement service cuts. So you can just see a drastic wipeout of the red line and the green line only going to peak hour service. And instead, those typical 10 to 20 minute frequencies that we're used to, that going down to only every half hour. And then, you know, at the what they have been projecting in what they've been calling their second phase, they are planning station closures up to 15. We don't exactly know those stations yet, but they have to cut costs somehow, potentially ending the entire blue line out to Castro Valley and the Tri-Valley. And all that combined means about 70% less train hours of service. Yes, so this is just another slide just talking about like the consequences for riders. So I think I talked about BART, but in addition to that, they're talking about increasing fares by 50%, running no more service after 9 p.m. on weekdays. And I think the other cuts are a little less relevant for the Tri-Valley, but I tried to pull some data from Wheels, and they are also anticipating budget deficits of the mid 2 millions if we don't pass this ballot measure. So yes, we all know every person on transit is one less person in a private vehicle. So there are large projections of traffic rising throughout the Bay Area. For instance, on the Bay Bridge, going up by 73%. And yes, it means that we would all sit in a lot more traffic without BART and other options. And then I own a car. I know it's expensive to own a car. So I think especially for a lot of our low income folks, like having to buy a beat up like 2000s car and trying to pay for gas, especially right now, like that'd be really detrimental to the cost of living right now. And that is the state of play. I will pass it to Manav to talk about how we are working on fixing this problem.
Yeah, hello everyone. Also, just wanted to add one quick point. If this measure does fail, a lot of us use the 580 to get to basically get to mostly where we need to go in the Tri-Valley. Just think of just like how much traffic that will cause, just from all that traffic coming down the Altamont Pass and going towards the BART station towards 680 and also through Oakland and things like that. So that's also just kind of something to consider, just like how much traffic will increase along the 580 especially. But now I just wanted to show you what our solution is. So we're trying to push for a ballot measure on the November 26th ballot election to basically fund transit operations for 14 years. So this is what we are here. So we are the Connect Bay Area measure. This is us right here in the Tri-Valley. And we include 5 Bay Area counties, Alameda, Contra Costa, San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara. And we want to raise around $1 billion for the next 14 years through a half-cent sales tax in our county, Contra Costa, Santa Clara, and San Mateo. And then in San Francisco, we're going to raise a 1-cent sales tax in addition to also helping them fund their transit systems like Moody and things like that. And this will also come with improvements in the way that we operate our public transit systems. So that includes helping improve our Clipper Start programs, helping give discounts through the Clipper 2.0 program, and also helping give funds for additional capital projects like down in the South Bay and also out here in Alameda County. So here's how we plan to use this money over the next how we plan to use this money over the next 15 years. So we expect to have investments into different programs, so like the Clipper program and helping improve accessibility at train stations and bus stops. And this would also directly support our transit operators, specifically 5.3 million to LAFTA and Union City as well. And this would also help give our County Transportation Commission $10 million, which would help improve our infrastructure when it comes to public transit systems. And so what are the pros and cons of this measure? So first, I think we would contribute 2% of our total sales tax to public transit, and while our neighboring friends in Contra Costa will give a 1 cent sales tax, and these funds are going to be directed towards our transit systems. And this is a model that is used in a lot of other major cities. So in LA, they have a 2% sales tax, and you've seen them that they've added lines to their metro system and they're constantly improving their transit systems. Same as Chicago. And then obviously in New York, they've been doing an amazing job with the way that they've been able to fund their transit systems, and that they're also thinking of ways to improve their transit system, obviously with the work of the new mayor. And so there also comes with conditions and benefits. There's going to be continued improvements in BART's safety and reliability are going to be very mandatory. And then also these funds are going to be they're going to be held accountable if these improvements aren't going to be met. And this also helps improve housing, especially transit-oriented development around BART stations and transit centers, which would help improve the economy for the long term.
Sorry, Manav, do you want me to go to the next slide?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
I could do that.
Yeah, so how are you so basically how do you think that we were able to hold our agencies accountable when it comes to this increased funding? They're going to set up different oversight committees to make sure that they're managing their finances correctly. They're going to have constant reviews of the four largest operators to help reduce costs without helping impact service. Yeah. So I know you're wondering, all this is great. How can I help people? How can I help you? Oh, sorry. These are the list of our endorsees. Obviously, you can see a lot of orgs in the East Bay, but also if you can look, we have a lot of Democratic orgs as well, including the Young Dems, including the East Bay Young Dems. Have to give them a shout out. But also CYD and different transit organizations as well that have endorsed. And so it would be really cool if we can add our logo to this list as well.
Is this going to go in front of the Central Committee at any point? Do you know? I don't see.
Yeah, I think this is going to go when it's going to be on the ballot. So we would probably look to endorse it when, come November.
I got a question, Manav. Oh, you're not done yet. I'll wait for the Q&A. Go ahead. Continue.
Real quick. Yeah, so we just want to you're asking how can we help out? How can we help spread the word? For one thing you can do is you can come to our events. Actually tomorrow me and Kaleo are going to be at the Dublin Pleasanton station collecting signatures, and if you want to help gather and help get trained to help us out in the Tri-Valley and help increase our number of volunteers that we have out here to get signatures. This would be a great event to go to and also a great way to practice. We are trying to get 200,000 signatures before June. And I think we are around, and Kaleo, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're around 40,000, I think.
Yeah. So there are like two aspects of this campaign. There are what we're calling the community advocates, which is all of us, like environmental, Dem Club, transit allies, unions, and we're gathering signatures. And we've got about 46K at this point. But then, there's also that other side of professional gatherers who, give you like 10 different clipboards with 10 different ballots. And they're also a really important part of this campaign. And I think one thing I forgot to put in this, just to add on to that, like we need to gather signatures to get it on the ballot. It's the only viable path for it to pass. So that's why we're out in the field right now.
And I'll also paste the link to our event tomorrow if you're able to come out. You can come by and help me and Kaleo out. And it's a quick 5-minute training
I
to learn.
signed it already, a long time ago.
Well, thank you for signing.
I have a question. when do you have to have these 200,000 ballots handed into whoever you're going to hand it into?
Yes, so we need to get all the signatures before the beginning of June. So I believe if my math serves me correctly, that's about 5 more weeks. So we're kind of doing this all-out blitz to get as many signatures, as many volunteers involved in the campaign as we possibly can.
You can go to the farmers markets too for
Oh
different.
yeah, I've been at the farmers markets. I've been at Las Positas College. Let's see, where else have I been in Tri Valley? Oh, I was at Stormwood Mall the other day. That was a very fun experience. Yeah, so I've been trying to get me and my friends like pretty much whenever we go out to like at least try to gather signatures. So I try to be everywhere, but I think something that would help us is like if we can get more people trained in our area and to help us gather more signatures because honestly, I'm only one person and I could only gather so much. But if we have more people out here in the Pat Valley, we can get more support and get more signatures and help us contribute to the goal overall.
How many paid signature gatherers do you have? And how much money do you have to pay them?
That is a great question, and I wish I could answer it, but I don't know the answer to that. I know that we have about 700 active volunteers gathering across the entire Bay Area, but I'm not really sure about that paid aspect of it.
Uh, Tomorrow night, the Contra Costa Jewish Dems is going to be on Zoom, so you might want to, get on and talk about Bart and what's going on.
So can I ask a question? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
let's go ahead and open it up to questions. Go ahead, Karen.
So how do we know, we're asking voters to approve, a half-cent increase and a 1 cent increase. How do we know that, I'm going to specifically speak to Bart because that one's been more in the news, but they will actually responsibly use the money. They got 1.6 billion in COVID relief, and where did that money go and how was that spent? And how do we know if we give them more money, it will actually they'll do the right thing and we won't keep having, going back to the voters and having them fund the next time that they're in trouble.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'll take a step back, but I will answer your question. Like we in the Bay Area and really in this unique situation, um, where our operators, specifically BART and Caltrain, were super dependent on fares before the pandemic. It was like 80% of the operating revenue for BART came from fares, which was
Mhm.
like this point of pride for us. Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we are so self-sufficient. And that is not how a lot of other operators work. Typically, they get, at least for rail agencies, get about 30 to 40% of their operating funds from fares, and then the others come from state, local, regional assistance, essentially. So that's just the context of where we're coming from. So I would say, like, this ballot measure is less so because BART frivolously spent their money, but it is more because of the unique conditions that we have for our operators out here in the Bay Area. This measure really brings the funding source closer to a lot of other regions across the country. And to answer your question about like how do we make sure that that funding is spent like in accordance to make sure it goes to operations and it's not like being spent, as I said, frivolously, like um, there are several different accountability measures built into the measure to make sure that there are third-party consultants who study like how BART is spending the money, making sure that all of it goes towards operations, so that the money is being spent to keep train service running and not going towards other, maybe capital investments. Um, and then I think, as Manav said earlier, like the regional government, known as the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, has the ability to withhold funds from BART if they see that they are not spending them according to the text of the ballot. Does that answer your question?
It does, but I'm going to speak from somebody who was riding it for a while. I stopped. So this is after COVID, came back, and because I've lived in lots of cities and I love using public transportation. It's a favorite of mine because you get to read a book, you get to look out the window. But I stopped riding it for safety reasons. There was too many times that somebody had something on there that just made me super nervous. And I've lived in New York City. I've lived so for a long time, but it made me nervous. And I was like, the cost difference between riding BART and driving my car was essentially the same, and I didn't want to take a chance. So that's my concern is we're asking voters to pay more, and I think there's some other systemic issues. But I haven't been on it for over a year, and maybe it is better now. So that's not fair that I say that, but I know that that's why I stopped riding it before. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll just say, I think what we hear from a lot of people is like, we build safety for ourselves, right? Like when there are other people on the trains that you can depend
yeah,
on, like that helps you feel safe. And if we allow our transit systems to fail, we know less and less people rely on it. It's what we call the doom loop in the transit space. Like if I only take transit or BART, it only comes every 30 minutes. Well, more people are going to choose to drive. If they increase
yeah,
fares by 50%, more people are going to choose to drive. And that only exacerbates that feeling of like being unsafe if you're the only one on like a car with one other person.
yeah,
So that's how I take it.
yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I know Nathan wanted to say something as well. Nathan, did you want to speak in support as well?
Yeah, since I appreciate Jackie letting me share some time with Connect and Seamless on this, since we're currently having these same debates for the reasons that Carin listed, actually in or at the Tri Valley's Economic Council Innovation Tri Valley. And so something I like to bring up is, and like, and the reason why I'm doing this is because we are discussing this in a very different way, in a very different tone than from the rest of the coalition behind the measure, as in here's a Tri-Valley perspective on it, right? Um, when we're talking about declines, like how do we get to this situation? Like, look at this drop from COVID. We're talking about dropping from 12,000 riders from the Dublin Pleasanton and West Dublin Pleasanton stations to 3,000 riders overnight. And many of those riders, like Carin, opted in the first place and have since realized that we could telecommute. We don't see that to the same degree in Los Angeles, in New York, in Boston, in DC. We've seen significantly higher rates of return to office. And the reason why I bring that up is because I always make the argument that BART could be the best run transit agency in the world. The only difference that it would make would be instead of a 48% recovery from the pandemic, we'd be maybe looking at a 55 or 60% recovery. Nowhere close to where Chicago is, Philly is, or Seattle, let alone Los Angeles, DC, or New York. And the reason why I also want to emphasize that is because when we're talking about recovering our transit system from COVID, Kaleo was spot on. Relying on passenger revenue is not the way most transit city agencies in the US, let alone around the world, operate. They don't rely on ridership revenues in Japan. They don't rely on ridership revenues in Paris, in London, in Korea to the same degrees as we have in BART for the past 40, 50 years. And so when we're also talking about these other agencies, Los Angeles is already paying 2% sales tax dedicated specifically towards the metro system. New York doesn't use sales tax. They use payroll taxes, which are about as aggressive as sales taxes can be. Chicago uses state funds, so income taxes are deferred. So BART, even though Alameda County does pay a high sales tax, BART is actually like we've been subsidizing them significantly less than we realize. And even though that's a hard truth for us to confront, I think it is a truth that we need to confront as a region. And one more point that I want to make is that before BART picked up ridership, we had smog alerts very frequently, specifically in the Tri-Valley. And I say this as somebody who grew up in Tracy, just across the Altamont. When we talk about what does the world look like, what does the Tri-Valley look like without BART, I think a lot about my old hometown. I think a lot about the smog. I think about growing up with childhood asthma. We have had significantly better air quality thanks to BART, even in its reduced capacity, even at its worst capacity, we're looking at thousands of cars that are off the roads. When we look at recovery, to Karen's question, we are looking at, like BART Director Hernandez said, 43% reduction in crime in a very short time span. We're seeing good recovery in ridership because of continued investments like the fare gates. We have replacements of train cars. We have upgrades to the overall system. But funny enough, the example I want to point out before I turn it over to Stephen Dunbar is New Jersey, which is rarely pointed to as an example of good governance. Their transit system had an even steeper fiscal collapse than BART. They had a total fiscal collapse. With the same accountability mechanisms that Manav and Kaleo are talking about tonight, with the exact same reform structures in place that are baked into this tax measure, the New Jersey transit system had no choice but to become more efficient, become more safe, because the tax measure they passed in New Jersey did not close the entire deficit that the New Jersey transit system faced. BART will still need to make at least $70 million in cuts in order to balance their budget after this sales tax. They will continue to become more streamlined and more efficient because they don't have a choice. So there are very legitimate critiques of BART that Seamless and Connect don't quite have the same leeway to address, but at least the discussions going on in the business community out in the Tri-Valley are such that, no, like, we're dealing with flawed systems. We cannot improve flawed systems without saving flawed systems. And if we're going to have this system continue to serve the Tri-Valley and all of our neighbors, if we're going to get back to where we were before the pandemic, and if we're going to prevent hundreds of thousands of cars from getting back onto the freeway, this is a tax measure that we need to support, in my very humble opinion. So I'm glad that our club is discussing this.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for the visuals.
Hey, any other comments or questions for our transit folks here?
Hey there, this is Stephen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I see Charles's hand as well. I'll popcorn him eventually. Hi, everybody. As you know, my name's Stephen. I'm on the Livermore City Council, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. You should also know that I work for Gillig making transit buses here in the Tri-Valley, so this is quite personal to me. But I'll also say that my mother, I grew up with a mother who had MS, and so Carin, all the things that you've been talking about in your advocacy really echo with me. So thanks for that. I wanted to point out a couple things here specific to the Tri-Valley as I understand them. One is that a lot of our major routes and the highest ridership routes per hour in the Tri-Valley are school routes. The 500 and 600 series and the sections of the 10 and 30 that serve our schools, both college, Osprey's College and the high schools and middle schools. But they are tricky to run because they are so peak hour and out, but there are minimum time bands for drivers. They really complicate the service. So, it's a tough position to be in, how Wheels has to operate. I also wanted to say about transit that transit often ends up being a positive feedback cycle if you can get it. As much as there is also a doom loop, there's also a positive cycle if we can get on it. And I see Wheels making those moves in the Tri-Valley. One thing that they're working on is implementing a transit signal priority system. What that means is if the bus often pulls out behind a line of cars, inside a bus stop, and it'll pull out behind them and it can't accelerate as fast and it hits a yellow light. And it does the same thing in the next block and the same thing in the next block. If you can sync up those signals so it gets through, you can save a whole lot of time. And if you save a whole lot of time in one direction, now the bus driver can turn around and go back the other way and provide statistically way more service with that little increment of time. And they're about to go out with that in the near future. San Jose just did this and their on-time performance increased by 25%. And because of that on-time performance increasing by so much, they're getting more ridership. And because they're getting more ridership, they're getting more fare revenue. Because they're getting more fare revenue, they're able to reinvest back in their own system. The last thing I wanted to address is a comment I saw on the chat. We know that sales taxes are regressive and imperfect. Unfortunately, with the way that the system works at the state level, this was the only thing we were really able to get the state legislator to let us do locally and actually get off the ground in time. We can debate about how to fix that sometime in the future, but if we let the service go under now by not passing this, you're going to have so much ridership loss, and people are going to change their lives to deal with that ridership loss and are going to find other ways to get around that. Recovering from it will be very, very difficult, even if the tax structure is more progressive at that hypothetical future date. So thanks for your time.
Charlie?
All right, so Charlie Jones from the Pleasanton School Board, but I'm going to speak as myself tonight. I want to thank you for doing this. A lot of where I teach in Hayward, quite a few of our teachers use these BART lines to get to school and to do work. And it's also a lifeline for quite a few of our students to get there as well. So if this measure fails, one of the stations that they will close is in Hayward by my school, which means we are now denying the ability of children to have easy access to education and the education that they deserve. And we're making it harder for the teachers that go and teach in these areas that have a harder time recruiting teachers. We're losing more of them if this type of measure fails. The other thing too is this is about the future. And if the blue line ends up shutting down, Valley Link has nothing to connect with, which means that traffic is going to become even more horrific in the Tri-Valley, which means that our commute times into the Bay will become even worse. So we really can't afford for this one to fail.
Thank you. Any other last comments before I make my comment? Anybody else? I think it would be just a horrible shame to lose our blue line. We were waiting the longest. We've been paying here in Alameda County. I live in Livermore. We've been paying since the 60s for this service. And to be the first to be cut out would be really not acceptable. And I remember growing up here in the 60s and 70s, and you could not see the hills on the other side of the valley. And dumping more cars on this road, more on this freeway. And then if they, what happens to the homes that don't have any parking, that absolutely rely on public transit to get to their jobs? What happens to those folks? So for that reason, I would like to make a motion that our club endorses this measure and moves immediately to help support it. Do I have a second on that motion?
Jackie, I think. Oh, man. Okay.
Can I hear all in favor of supporting this motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any objection or anybody that wishes not to endorse? Say nay. I think the ayes have it. The measure has been endorsed, and I would like to further move that the Democratic Club, the Tri-Valley Democratic Club, because this is our line, that we donate or put out of our coffers up to $300 to help with an event, an education, a party, yet to be determined. But put at least $300 aside for this measure. Do I hear a second on that?
I will second it, Jackie.
And I hear a second. Any concerns? Any objections?
Jackie, did you say at least 300 or up to 300?
I'd say at least 300.
Okay.
If we can justify spending more and it makes sense, I think that we could do more. Do you have an alternate motion you'd like to make, Richard? On that, for clarity, should we say up to? I'm going to say at least $300 to help. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those that oppose, say nay. Okay, So, Manav, I will be in touch with you so that we can, figure out what kind of fun thing we're going to do to help get our members engaged and get those 200,000 signatures. How many signatures?
200,000.
200,000
And
signatures.
you guys can start tomorrow by coming to meet me and Kaleo at Dublin Pleasanton BART Station.
At what time?
What do you say, 4 p.m., Kaleo?
Yeah, we'll be there from 4, and I'll be there until at least 7.
Okay.
Are you
And I
saying
will be
that
at whatever
you,
party is happening, just so you know.
so you have 46,000 and others are gathering them as well? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so it's not total, it's 46 plus a whole bunch of other people doing that same work. Got it. Okay.
So, but we have limited time. So that's why we wanted to get this out in front of our members. So unless you have anything further to say, thank you so much, gentlemen. Nice presentation. Let's go save Bart.
Let's go save
Thank you
Bart.
all so
Thank you.
much. See you tomorrow.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the spotlight here, and we'll continue on to officers' reports. We're a little over time. I hope nobody minds. And when we're done with our officer reports, we'll turn off the cameras. And if anybody wants to say anything else about the past couple weeks, we'll turn the cameras off and you can have at it. So for now, let's see. Ellis Goldberg, do you want to give your officer report?
Certainly do. I actually wrote some stuff down, and I'll cut Sharon out of the camera. If you like me having what I call the roller coaster dream, that I'm on a roller coaster and I reach the top and it's out of control and I can't wake up from the dream. And we've all had that in the last few weeks. I ask you to look at a longer timeline. For the last 80 years, the United States has been the world leader. In the prior 80 years, there were different alliances, different dominating, leading nations. We may be at one of those inflection points today, where nations choose new sides and major change happens. We will have the opportunity to shape those changes. And that's why we belong to democratic clubs, political organizations that are making those changes. Although it's a painful period, this is also a great opportunity. And I urge all our members to take that opportunity to work on that change, to make this world a better place, because things are shortchanging every 5 minutes. That's my political director's report. The secretary's report is on our YouTube channel, and I believe Jackie is distributing the phantom minutes to the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellis. And do we have Alan? Let me see. Where's Alan Nakashir?
He's here.
There we go. Let me spotlight you. There we go.
Okay, our financial situation for this month. We had income of $460. Our expenses amounted to $20.48 for credit card fees and $21.99 for Zoom. We're paying more now because we've had more people at the meetings, which gave us a net overall for the month of $417.53 increase, which leaves us a balance of $3,825.45. We have a check outstanding for $400, which was a donation or whatever gift to the McNerney campaign for using the building that they had for our Christmas party. As far as year to date or year over last year, we're actually about $800 ahead of last year at this time. Our membership is 126 members, which, at least from my experience, my time, is far and away the most membership we've had. So hopefully that bodes well for participation in the coming elections. Any questions?
Alan, I think at some point we need to figure out how to automate new members to our mail list. So even though they can sign up separately, when they sign up to be a member, there's no tie between our mail list and renewing dues. So that's something you and I just need to work out at some point.
Yeah, just give me a call. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, just so it automates that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Any other new business before I make announcements? Yes.
I think Victor is, Victor, if you are on the meeting, not to put you on the spot, but let us know if you have a regional directors thing you want to talk through, especially with the upcoming CATAM delegates votes on the special, but no pressure.
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead,
oh,
Victor.
oh man, you're giving me all the pressure, Richard. Hey, everyone, so it's Victor. I'm the Region 6 Director for the California Democratic Party. So just a quick update. So as you all know, obviously there has been a vacancy in CA 14. The party is doing a special election endorsement caucus this week. So for those of you who are delegates on the call, the election is going to be happening tomorrow. So tomorrow at noon is the deadline for the candidate registration form. So candidates are still eligible to seek the party endorsement for the special endorsement caucus for the special primary election that's happening June 16th. With the general election, if necessary, August 18th, right? Ballots will be sent out tomorrow at 5 p.m. It'll be from Election Buddy, so make sure you check out your email. If you are an eligible voter, aka if you're a delegate to the party, you will have essentially 2 days to vote. Or let me see. Actually, sorry, no, the deadline will be April 22nd, which is the following day at 5 p.m. So you essentially have one whole day to churn in your ballot. Takes like 2 seconds to vote who you'd like to receive the Democratic Party endorsement for the special election. Obviously, we've already endorsed in the regular election, which I believe was Aisha Wahab. So that one's already done and over with. Besides that, there is the upcoming executive board meeting. That is uh, open to any Democrat, but but folks who should be attending those are folks who are executive board members. So if you're an executive board member through the central committee, through your assembly, or your ADEM delegate slate, or if you are a committee chair, caucus chair, or a party leader. Also, if you sit on any of the standing committees, it is recommended that you attend. That executive board meeting is going to be in San Diego at the Sheraton San Diego Hotel and Marina, starting Friday, July 31st and ending Sunday, August 2nd. I believe registration has not been open yet, but they will announce soon with the hotel block for that executive board meeting. Uh, with that, that means that we will be calling a Region 6 meeting a month prior to that. So I will be sending out an email to all delegates probably in the month of May to announce that we will be meeting and having a Region 6 meeting in the end of June. Once we are done with the regular primary on June 2nd and with the special primary on the 16th. But yeah, that's basically it. Are there any questions or any comments folks want to make in regards to the party?
Victor, on the special endorsement or the special caucus tomorrow, does that include ADIMS or is that just the central committee delegates?
It is all DSCC delegates that reside in Congressional District 14. So it is Central Committee delegates, it is Assembly District delegates, and it's also appointed delegates. So our elected officials and/or top vote-getting Democrats in the Congressional, State Senate, and State Assembly seats, those delegates, if they reside in CA 14, are eligible to vote in the special endorsement caucus tomorrow.
And who votes for Eric Swalwell? Does his alternate vote?
That's a good question. Um, so God, Jesus. So technically, so here's the rule at the party, right? So like, 'cause I believe this is also same for like the officials, is like you actually get like an overlap. So like for example, for myself as regional director, if I were not to get reelected, I still technically get to continue being a delegate for like another, I think, 2 years. And so I feel like with Swallow, even though he vacated his seat, he may technically still be a delegate through it. I highly doubt he would participate in it. I think the bigger concern is his appointed delegates, right? Because Eric, I believe, gets 6 appointed delegates, and so those folks are technically still delegates. They are not removed, as far as I can tell.
Interesting. Should be an interesting call tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can
Karen, do you have a question?
It's a question, it's a comment, well, it's a question and a comment. So I know that all of us candidates who are running to fill the seat in the standard process, we were approached and asked for the benefit of the party to sign a letter that we would not run in the special election and put a caretaker in there, but it was an all-in, so everybody signs or nobody signs. And one candidate's refusing to sign right now. So I was just curious why this endorsement is happening if we're all being asked by the party to sign a letter so that we could get that 50% plus one, so we could have somebody seated in June, so that we could have somebody in there for the votes. So all of us were being lobbied to go ahead and think about the good of the party. So it's just surprising to me that now there'll be an endorsement when some of us haven't even submitted our paperwork yet because we were asked.
So what you're describing is not like an official action from the
Yeah.
California Democratic Party. It sounds like there may be leaders within the party who are asking folks to sign on to this pledge or whatever. I don't know anything about it. This is the first I'm hearing of it. I
There's
don't.
news articles out there. There's that just
That's
published.
that's yeah. So that has nothing to do with this. So the California Democratic Party cannot do that, right? Like we have to go through our procedure and protocols of having the endorsement caucus. So you should not be hearing or receiving anything from an actual uh, party leader or party staff. Um, this could, and I know Nathan has a hand raised, so he has more context, but this could potentially be. I don't know if you're referring to folks in the DCCC or folks from the federal level. Like they may potentially be asking folks to do that, but that has no.
So you'll still endorse regardless, even if that person is not even on the ballot in the end.
Well, the thing is, in order to get the party's endorsement, you do have to register to seek the party endorsement and be running for the seat. So, theoretically, if someone throws their hat in the race and they are participating tomorrow, that goes to show that they actually pulled papers and will be running in the special.
And I only saw Aisha and Bob Wachowski as pulling stuff for endorsement.
But again, the deadline is tomorrow at noon, so there could be some last minute folks who file at 11:59, right? You never know; it happens.
I'm
But
getting down there right now and gonna file. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if you want, but yeah, Karen, in regards to that letter, I wouldn't take that as that's the official party pushing that. That just might be some folks who happen to be involved in the party who are asking the candidates to do that. Unless you name dropped, and I can tell you, but I think that's unofficially. That
There were heavy hitters making phone calls this weekend. So yeah.
yeah, and again, I mean that happens all the time, right? You have
Yep.
electeds or folks higher up in the party who try to put their thumb on the scale, but in an official capacity, that is not happening. That's not the case. It's just folks are trying to, you know, throw their weight around, throw their influence, but it's not like the official party stance. The party's not officially doing any of this stuff.
Got it.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Victor.
Of course. And then
Challenging times, I'll tell you.
real quick, just to let folks know, if you have any questions or if you're not receiving any information and you think you should because you are a delegate in CA14, you can reach out to cd14 at cadem.org. So cd14 at cadem.org. Or you can reach out to Rocky Fernandez, who's one of the other regional directors. He is the one who's actually convening this special endorsement caucus. So I am not involved in the planning or implementation of this stuff, but I am your regional director. So if you have any issues, feel free to reach out to me. But that is the email and the point person you want to reach out to about this caucus that's happening.
And all of this information is on the CADEM website under endorsements, and you'll see the special endorsing caucus, and you'll see the letter that was sent to the candidates as well to the delegates. And as a reminder, that is pre-Prop 50 14th Congressional District. So we do have a delegate that sits right there in Dublin where it just got moved. So that would explain why that delegate did not get his ballot. Any other new business? I'm just going to mention a couple things. I sent it out in email. Congressman Mark DeSaulles is having a town hall. That's on Saturday, April 25th. And then we are hosting, the Tri-Valley Democratic Club is hosting a panel on water. May will be Water Month, but we are talking to the water experts this month. And that's going to be with panelists Sarah Palmer, Dawn Benson, Aziz Akbari, and moderated by Seema Badar. So that was also sent out to club members. Again, I'll open it up. Any last minute business comments? And Victor put in the chat for everybody where you can find all the information about the special endorsing caucus, as well as the results will be coming out in a couple days. So check that website in a couple days and see the results of that special caucus. Does anybody have any trouble, our members, getting their ballots? Ballots have been mailed. And Richard, how long are we going to keep these ballots open?
Real quick, Evan, I know, is having issues not getting his ballot.
Evan, okay. Sometimes we have old emails or it was imported bad. So Evan, I'll get that to you right away. Anybody else? Okay, well, that's all I had. And my Zoom keeps dumping, Richard. This has been like 5 times tonight. My Zoom dumped on me. So I don't know.
I'm sorry to hear that. That is very tragic. I'm sorry to hear that.
I have to figure that one out.
Kyoko has not gotten her ballot yet.
Okay, Kyoko and Evan, I got you guys.
And Isabel, actually. Isabel also did not get her ballot.
Boy, same people as before.
Uh-oh.
You know what I'm going to do? Let me check how she filled out her last ballot. Okay, so I got Isabel, Kyoko, and Evan. Anybody else? Okay, that's all I have. I'm going to go ahead and take care of these last minute ballots. And I guess
Jackie?
Yes. Sharon?
Hi. You might want to start making reservations for our club picnic. So you have a choice of where to go and what time and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it. Maybe we can do something early with the transit measure and do something fun to get people on site to get some signatures. So yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay. Signing party.
Huh? What was that?
I said we can have a signing party.
We could have a big signing party. Yay. Okay.
Jackie, can we check if Carin is an eligible voting member?
Yes, she joined last month.
Okay. Carin, if you didn't get your ballot,
let us
Bear
know.
with me. Let me mhm. Carin, you didn't get yours?
Let's see if we got ours.
No, I did not, but and it's coming in email. Is that where I'd be checking?
Yes, you should find it in email from
Oh,
Tri-Valley
no.
Dims.
I'm looking at one email
And
account.
it
It
looks
could
like
be in
it looks like a
Not
couple
even
of
in
them
your
have
email.
bounced back too.
What
I
what
gotta
am I then?
hold on.
it arrived. I was just checking the wrong inbox. So
Okay,
yes, I did get it. Yes, thank you.
let me forward to Evan. I'm gonna try. Evan has two emails.
Yeah, I got one.
Go ahead, click on it.
Both.
So I saw in the chat that Betty suspended her campaign. Did anybody else suspend, or are we aware?
Just Betty Yee today.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually pulled her from the ballot.
Maybe you got a ballot.
Sharon, I'll get it on yours.
Mm.
Us will vote on the same one.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, fill it out.
I'm not gonna.
Okay, you guys, we can hear. Yeah, fight. Let me take care of these other folks. Kyoko, you're next. Okay. Sorry, it's tough for me to multitask anymore. Kyoko, you should have yours. There's a couple that bounce back I'll work on after I'm off the phone. And Isabel Gomez. Okay, Isabel, you should have yours now. Anybody else? Oh, Carin. There.
I'm set. Yes, I'm
Oh,
good.
you got yours, right? You
I
got
did. Yes, I was checking the wrong inbox when I was didn't see it earlier. So
No worries. No worries. Okay. Anybody else did not get their ballot? Sharon, Ellis, you guys good? I probably
Yeah.
sent it to both of yours.
Sharon got her ballot, but I haven't looked for mine yet.
Okay, well, you have till tomorrow. If you have any problem, give me a call, okay?
Okay.
And I'll send everybody the results tomorrow and we will do a big announcement.
I can email mine to you.
For folks'
No,
awareness,
no.
ballots will close tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 11:59 p.m. So you have just under 27 hours to vote.
Okay. And I will send a reminder email tonight. I'll see who has not sent ballots back. I will send out a reminder, check for bounced emails, resend those tonight. So give me a little time to work on that. I have found, by the way, some issues with our new constant contact mail system because I've imported people in as members. I've imported people in from the old system. And you have to put these people on lists. And if they're not on one list and, they're not included. So I need to do some database work in essence to clean that up so that all of our members are in our mail system because that isn't the case now. That doesn't happen. It's a manual process. They have to either subscribe to our newsletter manually or we have to manually add them. So I'll work with Alan to automate that and make that a little easier.
You got it. Good.
As well as we've had several members ask for Apple Pay and PayPal and other pay modes. So Alan, you and I need to get together and spend a little bit of time on some things. And with that, unless there's anything else, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. We will send out our the information on Wednesday, since we're going to have the ballots open until tomorrow. So thank you all. And thank you, Carin. It's nice meeting you. You know you're going to get roped into this club.
I was saying I'm excited about that. I missed this, so I'm excited. So it's good.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody.